to the Den, where we're a source of inspiration by using our knowledge, experiences, and voices to empower women to move with intent. And on today's show, we're going to talk about privilege.
Hi, I'm Michelle, la entrenadora.
Hi, I'm Dr. Uchenna, the DR.
Hi, I'm Shirell, the socially conscious social worker.
And I'm Dr. Evi Taylor, AKA the People's Professor. And together we are the Muse.
So today's show, I wanted to talk about privilege because there was an incident this weekend or this past week at the Houston Zoo where some celebrities went to the zoo with their child and rides had to be shut down. And the outlash from it was, I would have never expected it. So I started thinking about privilege because I never really thought about privilege in that context. I never thought about it. So what I did, I kind of looked up the definition of privilege just to make sure that I want to make sure we're all on the same page. So first, privilege, it's a special right, advantage, or immunity granted or available only to a particular person or group. Doesn't give what that person or group is about, who they are. It's just something that's granted to you because of whatever particular reason. And so just to catch you up to speed, so this week, Kylie Jenner and Travis Scott took their 3-year-old daughter to the Houston Zoo. First off, I'll say this, I wouldn't know, honestly, I know who Kylie Jenner is, I know who Travis Scott are, but I would never in a million years be able to pick them out in a crowd. So they went to the zoo, shut down the rides for 30 minutes twice, and mothers were livid. One woman said, my daughter, we go to the zoo every week, and I just don't think it's fair that rides get to shut down. My daughter gets to ride a ride too. Why do they have privileges? Why? It's not fair. So, I mean, I started thinking about, like, back in the day, we used to, like, if you were known and you go to a club, you got in first. You just skipped the line. People were upset, but I mean, you got in first. Depending on who I was with, and this is when I was younger, depending on who I was with, we would get into a restaurant, we sit in a certain section because the person didn't want to be bothered by anybody else. They would shut down a whole area of the restaurant, right? I mean, just little things. I think about in college where they shut down movie theaters so the team could watch a movie. Just little things that the reason why those privileges were awarded was because 9 times out of 10, if certain people are seen out in public, people are gonna act a fool, right? And I thought, is it fair? Is it not fair? I don't think it's either fair or not fair. I kind of think it just is. If you, for whatever reason, and I'm saying this is about successes. I'm not saying like you're born into like the Queen's family or whatever. You know, that's another story too. But if your successes have put you in a place where you have some notoriety or some status, then I'm not saying, is it fair that you have privilege? I think you just have the privilege because you have to have the privilege. But I think in today's society, everybody's about fairness and equality in that my kids play sports and now they don't keep score because the parents say that everybody is a winner. And the truth is, some people have certain talents, some people don't have certain talents. Some people have certain skills, some people don't have certain skills. And if your talents and skills make you more elite than someone else in that area, I'm just saying, I'm not saying you're elite, then I don't know. I just think it's not equal. I mean, the world isn't made that way. Not everybody's equal. So anyway, that's why I wanted to talk about this because I had to think about it because I mean, I've been afforded privileges and I mean, and Evi, you actually told me once that your students would say I had privileges, right? But even though so anyway, what do y'all think?
Yeah, okay. I think it's 2 different things here. So when we're talking about privilege, you know, like I'll talk about that and address that in a minute. But I think like what you're saying, like privilege and equality, I'm not seeing like kind of hand in hand. I'm thinking like, you know, when we're talking about sports and things like that, 100% agree that, you know, someone's going to be better. So if you win the race, you get the trophy, you get the medal, and the person that doesn't, they just don't, because that's based on your skill set, right? So you're winning, you're achieving something because of your skill set. So I don't care when my kids were 3, They might not have been keeping score, but I was keeping score. And my kids knew if they won or they didn't win, right? Because there is definitely, they got to learn that not everybody is a winner.
But isn't that an extension now? So if they're successful and they have notoriety from that success and talents, now when they're out and about, let's just say they're out and about and people are running up to them so they can't even eat in a restaurant. So you don't equate that privilege that their talents afford them, that they do
two different things. I think it's two different things. We're looking at it on a different spectrum. So if my kids are getting the gold medal, they deserve that. They worked for that. If you are famous for some reason, I don't agree with what happened at the zoo. If you want to pay and the zoo is closed, say the zoo is closed every Sunday, well, then you go on the day that the zoo is closed. You can afford to shut it down. You pay that price. So you're not getting a privilege because you're paying for it. But you don't disrupt other kids' day. Because if my kid is going to the zoo, and I will say I have a lot of privileges too, basically because of what my husband does for a living, right? But I'm not going to use my privilege to disadvantage somebody. They use their privilege to disadvantage people because you have your everyday people that are going there that some of the people may not have a lot of money, however much money it costs to go to the zoo, they're paying that money. And what if it was a family that paid up, that saved money for 3 months to take their kid to the zoo? And that was a big, huge thing for this family because they don't have money. So their big, huge day got ruined because somebody wanted to come in and shut down rides. If they're going to do that, use your money on a day when the zoo is closed, or the zoo should say that they are shut down so that people know that when they're going to pay, they're not, their rides or their day is not going to be interrupted.
But it's still going to be interrupted, really, because if the zoo says out of the blue because someone comes into town like the president, we're now closing this. And you plan.
You need to do that in advance.
But sometimes you can't do it in advance.
Most times you can. And I think that you not even just money, I think it's also time. See, money matters to me, but my time matters to me. And I get really ticked off when people mess with my time. So, because if I've set time, what if they only got a short amount of time before they got to go to work or whatever they got to go and do? And it's unfair because that's not a part of the plan. And it also sets a message to the children, right? That it doesn't matter. My schedule, I don't matter. That's already silencing their voice. And to me, it should have been like maybe they for an event like that, they have special days for people who are celebrities and they come in there, it's shut down. They can walk around. They don't have to worry about people running up to them, whatever. But they shouldn't just decide that I'm coming today and I'm going to stop everything.
But I don't know the situation. I mean, and it's more than just this situation, right? It's like I said, in general. I don't know. I mean, they could have been in the zoo normal like everyone else and people started running towards them.
But they have that choice. That's a choice that they're making.
They made by going there
that day.
So exactly. So you're saying that privileges you shouldn't be, and I'm not talking about, this is in general, not just in general. Happened to Kylie Jenner and Travis Scott, but in general, privileges should not be afforded to certain types of people.
So I'm saying that people, let's face it, life is not fair, right? And so my husband always says, if you want fair, a fair is a place where they sell hogs and cotton candy. That's a fair. Life's not fair, right? And we know that. But if you have privileges, my thing is, I'm not going to use my privilege to disadvantage somebody else.
Knowingly.
I'm going to use
knowingly.
Try to help somebody.
She knew she was going to the zoo or anybody else,
I know if I were them and I knew that my child wanted to go to the zoo, then I would choose a day on the calendar to pay off so that the zoo would be closed that day. That's still a privilege. See, so they're using their privilege to shut down the zoo.
They only shut down a carousel. They shut down a train ride for 30 minutes.
It doesn't matter, Uchenna. It doesn't matter.
If I was there, I would have been hot.
I would have been pissed.
Because why is their kid more important than my kid?
Than mine.
That's exactly what that woman said.
Exactly.
100%
with her because they have all this money. They can do it on their time where it's not inconveniencing everybody else.
Correct.
Well, I'm gonna speak from experience because this is all it's bringing back memories because y'all know. I was in a relationship with an NBA player, and I was around a lot of big time NBA players. We used to go out to dinner after the games. People would not let us eat. Let the players eat. It was just constant. So like for me, I see both sides. Like for instance, there should be, like Evie said, you plan ahead. You maybe get a separate room that's private, a private room in the restaurant, and you sit in there and eat. But see, this is the thing. So it's funny because the celebrities, they want to be in the real world and experience the real world stuff, but then they can't really because they're not living an average life. So people come running up to them. But I'm with you, Evie. I'm like, people should plan. Like, for instance, Uchenna, you're saying they might can only go that day. Well, you might have to come before it opens or after it closes. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not fair, I don't think, for celebrities to just say, oh, shut that down and let me go shopping there. And
so I'm being devil's advocate about all of this. But so I hear what you're saying, Michelle, but then it's not fair to their child because they want their child to have Travis Scott. Okay, can I say something?
I will say
she's good. She's good. Believe it. She's good.
Can I finish saying what I want to say?
Okay, go ahead.
Because I'm so from the vantage point of what you said, Michelle, right? They want to be in the real world. She's a 3-year-old child who wants to experience the zoo. So if you shut down the zoo and she's there by herself and she has no idea about celebrity, right? This 3-year-old child has no idea. She's a 3-year-old and just wants to experience. Her experience won't be rich. It won't
be. But this is the thing, that's part of it. Okay, so you got all this money and you could do whatever you want.
Not everybody has money.
But part of it is you can't live a regular life. That's just part of it.
But no,
because you got millions of dollars. The other part is you can't live a life.
And you want your child to have that experience, invite other celebrities on that day that you're shutting it down. And I'll say, Michelle, I understand what you're saying because early on in my husband's career, especially when we were in the SEC, we couldn't go out to eat because every time we went to a restaurant, we were bombarded with people asking him for his restaurant. I had that little girl. Star would get irritated looking at people because we couldn't eat and they kept coming up to her daddy, wanting to take a picture, wanting his autograph every time we went to a restaurant. So we had to make the decision. Either we can go, there was times where we went to like a VIP room or somewhere where it was closed off, or we just didn't go because we knew that we wouldn't be able to eat. But we made the decision. I was not going to use my privilege to shut something down. Now, I didn't have at the capacity where I can shut down a zoo or something like that. But looking on a lower scale, I know what it's like, you know, to not be able to eat dinner because people keep coming up to your husband, asking for autograph and pictures. And my kids had to sit there. So we can make the choice. We can either go to a VIP room or we just don't go.
Right.
You have to weigh the pros and cons, but I was not going to use my privilege.
Right.
And I didn't have it at that level. But if I did where I can shut down the restaurant, no, because that might've been someone's first date. That might have been somebody's anniversary.
Yep.
I don't know what's going on, but that's not, that's disadvantaging them.
That's part of being a celebrity. That's part of
question is that. So my question is on a real level. So when we used to get to the front of the line at a club, we shouldn't have done that.
No, that was fine because other people were still.
How was that fine?
Because it's called the VIP line. So some people are going to have VIP, but other people were still able to get in the club.
No, some people weren't able to get in the club because there is a fire code. So you bring your whole entourage.
Everything. There's always a line and you stand in line, and if you don't get there early enough,
that's different.
You don't get in. That's different.
That's different.
It's not different. It's not different.
You're not disadvantaging somebody because those people know when they come to the club that they're not going to be able to get in.
You are disadvantaging. The whole premise is using your privilege, using your status to get blah. So if you get into a club and someone else that got there early and still had to stand in line and they don't get in the club because how is that? Tell me how it's different.
Because those people know going to the club that you have to stand in line and there's a possibility of that happening.
That you won't get in. That's a possibility. But those people paid and were in the place. That's totally different.
But if you shut down the restaurant and someone's anniversary and they plan to go to the restaurant that day, but you shut down that restaurant because you decided to go, is that fair?
No.
But you just said shut down. You just said shut down the restaurant.
No.
Advance, not that day.
I'm saying in advance. I'm saying you shut down the restaurant on my anniversary, and that's where my husband proposed.
Yeah, but you knew in advance. Go somewhere else.
But I want to go to the restaurant my husband proposed.
It's closed that day.
Might be closed on Sunday.
you're still inconveniencing somebody. You're just saying that if you have privilege,
that they were inside of the facility. That's really different.
Okay, so let me say this. I understand all that. I understand. So it's not just about them in that day.
Right,
It's about
I get
privilege. I'm talking about privilege, period. This isn't about Kylie Jenner and Travis Scott and their daughter. That was an example that got me to thinking about privilege. This is about privilege, period. Period.
I think the message, I hear you. I think the message, though, is it exists. Yes. So that's what you started by saying. And I want to restate that when we're talking about privilege, we're not talking about white privilege. We're just talking about privilege and having a social status, right? So it exists. We all probably have had some level of privilege to some degree, some more than others for whatever particular reason, right? Now, when it is a total disadvantage to a person to just use it, I have a problem with it. Yep. Now, to say that if it's happened to me, yeah, and then when I'm in there, I feel badly. I do. And then somehow I try to compensate because I feel weird my own damn self because I don't think it's right. Because I tell you one damn thing, I'd have been one of them loudmouth ones like, hold up, right? Because I don't think that that's fair. And I know that human behavior, we're hierarchical anyways, right? We have a sort of a hierarchical system. But when you are going to common public places, I just don't think that that's right. And especially
the president goes to common places. People. I mean, it's not just about.
I get it. But I still think it's wrong. Just because it happens, don't make it right.
And it's a whole different level. We can even get deeper, like with the privilege, than just this one isolated event that we're talking about. Typically, the people that have privilege are the people that have money. The more resources you have, the more privilege you're going to have. And then you
typically
can like healthcare and things like that. So there are certain things that no, you shouldn't have better things just because you have money or more resources or privilege. Everybody should have access to
healthcare.
Every child should have an education. Every child should have healthcare.
Because that's not what we're talking about. We're not,
but it is because privilege. You said privilege is privilege.
I mean, I didn't mean for this to turn into healthcare. I mean, honestly, because I would have talked about that. That's why I said no.
About entertainment, entertainment, recreation.
I think when I'm talking about privilege, I'm talking about status and successes that you've earned that affords you blah. I'm not saying God knows I'm not saying equality, equity. I'm not saying
so I just think that's part of becoming successful and a celebrity, and all that's part of it. So all of this privilege and doing things a different way than the average person, that's part of it. And to a certain extent, the average person knows that. They understand it. Not the thing about closing down stuff, not that, but like getting into a building, getting into a restaurant, getting seated first and all that. That's just part of it.
Yeah, and Uchenna, you're saying they earned it. I'm saying, what do you
wait. No. I said about success and talents and being successful. Like if I become a multimillionaire, because I'm not saying that money, I wasn't talking about money at all. I was just talking about notoriety and success. Y'all said money. I never said money. I just said if you have notoriety and success by the definition of what privilege is, do you think that it's fair? I mean, basically, do you agree with it? Which is fine. I mean, I don't think because you're rich, you deserve other things. I don't believe that. But I don't think that the world is fair. I'm like, Trooper, I don't think the world is fair. Some people have other amenities over other, but I'm not talking about inequities, right? So I don't want to get that. I meant for this to be a fun conversation, not get into some deep philosophical, you know what I mean? I was just thinking
disparities, health disparities, and all of that.
Yeah. So the thing is, okay, so here's my thing. Yes, things aren't fair. Yes, people have privileges, and I think all of us on here have privilege to some degree. We all have education, we all have good jobs, we're all successful, so we have some privileges. But it's how we use those privileges. I don't agree with how the privileges were used at the zoo because I feel like that impeded on other families' days, other children's. It impacted other children. Yeah. Now, if I was at a part of a zoo, like when you have birthday parties, so, your children can have a birthday party at the movie theater and they'll close one section of the movie theater down for your child. If you go to a restaurant, one part of the restaurant is closed down if you decide to have a party. because that's policy or that's procedures and people know, but everybody else has access to the other parts of the restaurant or the other parts of the movie theater or the other parts of the zoo, because you can have a birthday party at the zoo. So if they wanted to do that, I think that it was wrong for the administration, for the zoo administration, to handle things the way that they did. They should have told them ahead of time that they can close down the zoo or that they can use a certain part of the zoo. But if you already paid your money, you're expecting to get services. I paid a fee for this, so a ride should not be shut down, like while I'm there, or reimburse me. And I can tell you, if it was my children, my child would have been on that carousel. Because
on that note,
my child would have been on that carousel.
On that note, I just wanted to have a fun conversation. So I think this is a good conversation. Anybody else?
I do. I think it's good because it's reality, but it's and you're right, Uchenna. It was more about recreation and social and whatever. But
it's all good. I love the conversation.
Yeah, I do.
Shirell, would your kids have been on that carousel?
Yeah.
I would have.
The whole place would have been shut down if mine wasn't on that damn ride, for real.
I would have been upset. I mean, I'm being devil's advocate to y'all, but I would have been upset if I went there and expected something and I didn't get it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've been on both sides of the coin, right?
Right. We all have. Sound a little bougie to me.
Sounds a little bougie to me. All right, ladies. The difference
is, if you have privilege, so here's my takeaway. If you have privilege, use it to advantage somebody else. Help somebody else with your privileges. Don't take away. That's my thing.
Right.
Okay.
Share the love.
There you go.
So make sure you join us
in the den,
where places don't make you feel at home.
People do.